So as our time of meditation comes to an end this morning, I simply speak my word to know that presence of God right here and right now, that infinite love, that infinite peace, that eternal creativity pulsating through all of creation, always seeking to express itself in the highest way in all the forms that it takes. I know that that divine presence expresses itself through me and through all who are gathered here this morning, whether physically present with us or joining us on the internet. I know that that divine presence uplifts us. It raises us to all that we can be and more than we ever imagined. So I speak my word this morning simply knowing that our wonderful guest speaker, Stef Swink, is uplifted to amazing heights of wisdom as she shares her message with us. I know that all of the congregants and members of OM and all our guests are simply raised to experience something new, a new level of open heart and open mind as they experience the message and fellowship together. And I know that collectively, as a community, as a spiritual oneness, we are all one. We see the light in each other, we see the light in ourselves, we see the light in everyone we meet, and in so doing, together, we create a world that works for everyone. So for these blessings, I'm simply so grateful. I raise up my heart in gladness and celebration and love, and I release my word into the law, knowing it is done. It is done with faith and conviction and confidence and joy. And I simply say, and so it is.
She's going to give me the mic. Uh-oh. So this is your second or third time being single out with us.
Personally or professionally?
Professionally.
Well, here, 2 times, the second time.
Yeah.
You're so funny.
You are too. We get to play with each other here. So Sylvia, take us to that place where we want to just feel. She's really, really good. So I want us to just feel you and feel your personality and the goodness that you bring to us. What are you singing today?
Today, it's what we call a mashup. And it's a message about the power within and about being able to accomplish when you believe, when you hold the key, and you have the faith and courage. If I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. 'Cause life can be a challenge. Life can seem impossible. It's never easy when so much is on the line. But you can make a difference. With courage you can set things right. The gift to dream and make dreams real is yours and mine. The power of one begins with believing It starts in the heart, then flows through the soul, and changes the world. Oh, yes. Imagine how life can be when we stand in unity. Each of us holds the key to the power of one. Each of us is chosen. There's a mission just for you. Just look inside you. Be surprised what you can do. There are miracles in life I must achieve, and I know they come from dreams inside of me. Oh, I believe I can fly, yes. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. Oh, I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I can fly. Ooh. Thank you.
We're going to go a little out of order. Come on up. One thing that we do here, because we have a live audience, is we like to introduce you to them and them to you. And just to let them know that we have a seat underneath that camera right there ready for you. So what we ask you to do is stand up, turn around, look at them, and just wave, say hi over there. We love you, we miss you, and we are glad that you are online with us. Yay. And just so you know, I know they wave back. I have been told. All right, so we have a special speaker here. You want to tell her first? Because I'll come after you. How's that?
Oh, sure. Well, I was thrilled when I learned that Stef Swink, our guest speaker, was going to be joining us, because I worked with Stef nearly 20 years ago, long before I knew what Science of Mind was. And although Stef and I have slightly different recollections of how we met and how that all worked, that's fine. I knew she was a practitioner, but I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know anything about Science of Mind. But I've since come to learn that everything about how Stef was as a person to work with embodied what being a practitioner is. She was present, she had a beautiful spirit, she was generous, she was collaborative, and she supported everyone around her, right? The practitioner consciousness that we know. So years later, when I finally discovered Science of Mind, oh, the light bulb. Oh, I get it now, right? No wonder she was so awesome to work with. So over the years, I've followed her as she's developed her special ministry and practice, and I'm thrilled that she's joining us here today to share her wisdom and her insights with us. So I can't wait.
Good. Thank you. Well, here's an interesting story. We've known each other at least, 20? I want to say 20 years. And you were a practitioner, came up after me, I think. Yeah, like a year or two after. So I always know this person. And she was always tall. and I was a little intimidated. I don't know why, but I was. But, over the years, churches change and we move and we grow and we get married and we do all these things and really lost contact. and I think it was last year in Irvine, that, I don't know, I saw her from a distance and I thought, I was just drawn. And so I went over and we just started talking. In the middle of all these people that are eating food, we have this nice conversation. And I was like, what a light. That's what hit me. What a light, what a heart, what an incredible person. She's going to cry in a minute, watch. I know how to do that. Now, what an incredible person that we are so grateful to have her in this world, because she's doing lots of good work. And so I would like you to give a round of applause for Stephanie Swink. Let me get that out of your way. See, she's tall. Let me get this out of here.
All right, honey, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Wow. 20 years. Just this year marks my 20th year as a licensed practitioner.
Wow.
Yes. So that means I have this honor bestowed upon me called emeritus. I don't actually know what that means. But other than the fact that for 2 decades I've been blessed to be a practitioner, and it's only in the last maybe 4 or so that I've expanded my heart this way by giving talks. And I have to say, it's something that had been in my mind. That'd be fun to do, maybe. And as I opened up to that, I started getting invitations. I didn't seek it. And now I've spoken and facilitated retreats and workshops in several states around the country, and I'm very, very grateful. And this, though, is my first time being in my hometown. So really special, really, really fortunate. And I'm looking out in this beautiful crowd, and there's a sprinkling of new faces, but right here is this core group called family. So we'll see how this talk goes, because they're here. I'm kidding. All right, so I hear that I have power in this clicker. Aha. So what I'm going to talk about today is sacred agreements, power of agreement. Really, it's about agreeing with God. And some people, they hear this title and they wonder, what does that really mean? And so I'm going to talk about agreements in a couple of different ways. And there is a deep awareness in me that there are agreements that are made in our lives that are conscious, very conscious agreements. There are a lot of unconscious agreements that we make. We're going to touch on that a little bit. And then there are sacred agreements. And I'm living out one of my sacred agreements by being up here and sharing my heart with you today. So, you know, it says in Proverbs that with all thy getting, get understanding. Wisdom is the principal thing. And so it occurs to me that having some awareness about our agreements, conscious, unconscious, and sacred, raises our level of self-awareness. And probably most of you would agree that self-awareness, wisdom, is a really beneficial thing. Actually, I think that it's an evolutionary necessity. Would you agree with me about that? Yes, self-awareness. Because, you know, those conscious agreements are a little easier to navigate because we chose them. So, for example, you chose to get up this morning and get dressed and come here and be a part of this day today. Some of you do that every Sunday. Some of you have made the agreement to be a member of this community. So those are really conscious agreements. Those are great. We understand them. We choose accordingly. And then there are those agreements, the ones I find really interesting, the unconscious agreements. I also call those sometimes assumed agreements. So for example, an assumed agreement, some of them are social. So it looks like, I was laughing when I wrote this down. We agree to stop at red lights, but wow, the drivers around here, can I just say, maybe not everybody is agreeing to that. I live in Colorado now. It's been 10 years that I've been a Colorado person. And so I don't often drive when I come back to San Diego, but I have been amazed. Wow, much faster pace here than I'm used to. But generally, there's an agreement that we'll do things like that. We'll stop at red lights. We'll stand in line. And you notice how we feel when those assumed agreements aren't met. We get our feathers a little ruffled, right? And so they're important. But the other layer of unconscious agreements, some of those assumed unconscious agreements are kind of embodied through our upbringing. So I love one of the agreements that exists within my family. Many agreements are really positive. In my family, we have this agreement that when we say hello and when we say goodbye, we hug each other. That's just something that we do. We don't talk about it. It's assumed. Everybody does it. Well, not just family, family and friends. Everybody knows we're going to hug hello and goodbye. That's just the way it is. So some of the other unconscious agreements that can be assumed as we're growing up that we're not aware of can look a little more challenging. Like they might look like we're not like those people, i.e. we're better. So it might look like we don't even question in some families and areas and places and ways that we grow up, there's accepted discrimination, racism, right? We see it. A lot of people that I've spoken with very directly that might have some of those agreements in their minds, I've asked them where they come from, and many times they're not sure. They're just assumed. And so I'm going back to that idea about wisdom being the principal thing. When we're aware of what we're agreeing to or what we've agreed to in the past that maybe is not working for us, that maybe is not bringing us joy, when we have awareness of it, guess what happens then? We can do something about it. We can absolutely do something about it. We can choose consciously in a different way. And I'm just seeing it everywhere. So the need for that. So here's the other one. I love this one. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. So when we agree collectively that something needs to change, the power of that change amplifies massively. And one of the ways I'm really excited, now I'm going to admit that on a planetary level, I dance around discouragement and sometimes even depression and despair around the state of our planet. I dance around it because if I really go there, I'm afraid that if I agree that I'm going to get real about how I feel about it, it's going to call me to a place of discomfort. It's going to get me out of my comfort zone. Well, recently I've decided I can't do it anymore. I can't do this dance. I'm going to dive in. And so I noticed that what happened at Christmas in my family, that there was this exchange of environmentally friendly gifts and nobody said a word. It just happened. You know, straws that you reuse, cutlery instead of plastic. And now I have the back of my car is filled with a whole variety of different plastic containers so that I've accumulated over time that I use now when I go out. When I go out to eat, if I have leftovers, which was really hard last night. They gave us styrofoam. I had a little challenge with that. But I didn't have them last night. I don't have my car. But that's an agreement that I've made, that I'm going to go through what it takes to live in integrity with what I value. And so I'm going to make those changes. And I've noticed, and it's all about perspective, isn't it? I've noticed on social media and different things and in the news that there's something changing there. Laws are being changed. Single-use plastics are being made illegal. Yes, that's all I can say. I'm so excited. And so a cumulative group agreement has an immense power to it. And so we'll get back to that a little bit more here in a minute. Another one of a cultural agreement that I found really interesting when I did my research, and some of you I'm sure are probably aware of this already, but there's an agreement within cultures about appropriate ways to greet people. And they're very different. So, for example, in Thailand, the typical greeting is hands together in a prayerful way, and you bow in namaste to that person. That's how they greet each other. Let's see, the other one. Oh, in the Netherlands, I love this. Kissing each other on the cheek, the most natural thing. That's how you do it. And have you noticed that when you come into a place like this or in many, many churches, we are met with hugs. That's the most natural thing. But in the Middle East, only women hug or shake hands with each other, not with men. And if you give a really strong handshake in the Middle East, it's considered rude. And so I share these kind of things because it's also really valuable and important to be aware of what agreements have been made in the people that you're living your life with and around, and to respect those, whether you have made the same agreement or even if you agree with their agreement. that you respect it. So I think that's really valuable too. So now we're going to get to my other favorite. And oh, this is what I want to say about agreement too. I love words and definitions. The dictionary is my friend. Think about this as a definition of agreement. It means in harmony or accordance. In harmony or accordance. In opinion or feeling. So my challenge to you in regards to some of these different agreements that I've spoken of today is to consider how you might expand the realm of your agreement with the rest of humanity, also with this planet, to live in a higher state of conscious harmony and accord. And we each have the power to do that. So that's my little soapbox on that one. So the other agreement that I'm especially fond of, I will say, is sacred agreements. So they're sacred. I love the definition of sacred. It is considered to be holy and deserving of respect and reverence. And so there's other holy, sacred agreements that we make in our lives other than the one I'm about to talk about. One of those is the covenant of marriage, right? Sacred, agreed upon, looks a little different in different cultures, but primarily that is a very sacred, everybody agrees that that's a very sacred agreement, sacred covenant. And I'm hoping that my beloved is watching online because he always says, knock them dead. I mean, knock them alive whenever I give a talk. We don't want to knock them dead. We want to knock them alive. I want to wake you up. And that leads pretty beautifully into my own sacred agreement, my covenant. And you know, I love that word, and it's actually a cornerstone of the work that I do, is assisting and supporting people. As a practitioner, I live my life fully immersed in this philosophy and this work, and I'm so blessed to do so these 20 years. I've been seeing clients all these 20 years, and for the last 6 now, it is my full-time endeavor. So I mentor people, and I also do workshops and retreats. And it is very often focused around this idea of agreements, these sacred, holy agreements. And the one I'm going to talk about is the agreement that each one of us has made with life itself. So whether you agree with this or whether you like it or not makes no difference. You made an agreement on some level, I believe, to be who you are, to be where you are, to have the challenges that you have, to have the family that you have, to have the blessings that you have. This evolutionary journey called this life that you are in, on a soul level, you agreed to it. So some people go, there is no way. I'll leave out the next couple words. I agreed to this, right? Difficulty, challenges, heartbreak, loss. Those kind of things we think, I didn't agree to this. You know, I actually went through an experience now 10 years ago, if you can believe it. No, 11. Where I lived out an agreement that I would have never consciously agreed to. And that is that, still after all this time, don't you cry, sister. That 11 years ago, my beloved Northman, my husband, passed away from cancer. And I remember thinking, there's no way that I can get through this. I'm sure I'm going to implode or dissolve or something, because that was my greatest fear, that a person that I loved deeply would leave, would die. And he did. But you know what? That agreement and that experience of my broken heart through loss broke it wide open. Broke it wide open. And now, I mean, this is a whole nother long story. But life is so interesting because I'm very happily married again. And I'm going to share this with you all. That the man I'm married to now, my very dearest friend, I met through that experience with my first husband. And they are cousins, believe it or not. Yes, my husband Dan is my first husband's cousin, and he's my best friend. And we've been married now 5 years, and life is amazing. I would have never have imagined that through that great heartbreak, that the greatest joy and the greatest, other than my awesome childhood, my parents are here, I got to acknowledge that. I had an awesome childhood. But this time in my life basically rocks. That's what I can say. So when I'm talking about sacred agreements, what I want to ask you to consider is, what your agreement might be, and a way to discover some of your core agreements, your sacred agreements, your soul agreements with the divine, is to look at your life, the places where you feel extraordinarily blessed and grateful. That's one way to see those. I agreed to have this incredible family. How fortunate am I? I mean, there are times when I think I've earned some extraordinary karma. Actually, I really say that about my husband because he likes to cook. That's how I know that I've earned some really good karma, because I don't, and he likes to cook, and ladies get really mad at this too. He also does the grocery shopping. So I'm thinking I must have been on the level of Mother Teresa in some past life, because he goes and gets the food, he brings it home, he makes it, and he feeds it to me. So I've got some good agreements going. So consider that some beautiful places where you feel joy, where you feel appreciation. Another place where you might discover what the wisdom of your soul has agreed to in this life is through your challenges. And looking at those challenges, those places of your own heartbreak, where you didn't think you could survive, but your human spirit persevered, almost despite yourself. Challenges with your children, your parents, whatever it may be. And that's another place where your soul has agreed to grow and evolve. That's another sacred agreement. So I love this one too. I love that picture. This is one of my sacred agreements. I'm outing myself now from a closet environmentalist to somebody who even more fully lives this way. And I'm saying that from my own perspective, that this is a no-brainer for me now to do everything I can. So that's one of my agreements, because it's come from a heartbreak. It's come from, like I said earlier, a point of despair. I'm thinking, oh, it's just not possible for us to turn this around. And yet I'm going to do my part. And invite you to consider that or wherever you are feeling that you don't have power, I question that. You do. Because it is your agreement with the divine. You're here. You're not here by accident. I just absolutely do not believe that. You are here on this planet, no matter what your life has looked like, to have an impact on other people, on the earth, and to your own heart, to your own soul. And I'm just going to share a little story. I didn't know I was going to do this, but some of the people that were at my mother's beautiful and very awesome birthday party last night are here. And it made me, as I was driving here, I was thinking about this morning, about agreements that we make that we don't even know we've made. And there was this fabulous connection that was a great surprise to many of us last night. People from my sister and my childhood, friends that we've had since we were very young, came to my mother's birthday party, including I call her a little girl, who she's an adult now and a mother, a little girl that I helped raise. I was in love with her father, and I helped raise Nicole from when she was 5 until about 9, and we've stayed connected ever since. Nicole came. And so Nicole is sitting there having a conversation with another childhood friend of ours, and they knew each other from work. It's like, oh, I know you. I sell you this thing, and we have this work relationship. And I'm standing there looking at them, and all of a sudden it hits me. I went, wait a minute. The only reason I know Nicole and raised her was because I fell in love with her father, who Karen introduced me to. And they were neighbors when Nicole was 3. And see, they didn't even know that. And I'm looking at this whole thing, this circle of life moving through this group. And all of a sudden there's tears and there's that incredulous feeling of synchronicity. And I'm going, hey people, whatever you want to call it, spirit, universal intelligence, God, that's it in action right there. Making that connection available, making the people aware of it. And the love, my mom said she couldn't go to sleep until 11 o'clock at night, and neither could I. I mean, there was so much love moving through this circle. So that's part of the agreement. You might not think that you have that great of an impact on some people in your life. I ask you to think again. It's very, very cool. So in looking at that, I'm not going to go to the last slide yet because I want to save it for the end. There's just this this little process I want to take us through. You willing? Willing to do a little journey with me? I'm just going to ask you, if you're comfortable with that, just to go ahead and close your eyes. If you want to let go, if there's something on your lap, you can set it down or you can hold on to it, but just let your eyes fall closed. And guess what? Now everybody's eyes are probably closed. And so if you've been holding your shoulders back or your stomach in, you can let it all go because nobody's looking. Just relaxing. Just hearing the sound of my voice. Just being present in this moment. And what's moving through the space that I'm very aware of, that I feel in my own heart, along with tremendous gratitude, is an awareness of that divine intelligence moving through our thoughts, moving through our hearts. And so I'm going to ask that intelligence, whatever you call it, however you relate to it, I'm asking it to just fill up the awareness, the consciousness of each person here. And allow that intelligence of life, of love, spirit, to open up your conscious awareness. Just let it drop in. You don't have to seek it. An area in your life, an experience, or a relationship in your life that you deeply appreciate. Someone's face might come into your mind, an experience, an area of nature, whatever it might be. Just let it fill up your mind, your heart. And now allow that same intelligence within you, your intuition, to bring into your awareness. Maybe it's just going to be one word. What is an agreement that was made, that made that thing you appreciate possible? Maybe it's just love. Maybe it's forgiveness. I don't know. Just see. So let your breath be full, keeping your eyes closed. Let that go out with your breath. And now what we're going to do is open up, just for a few moments here, just for the sake of that wisdom, to allow an area to come to mind where there's been challenge. Maybe some pain or heartbreak or struggle. Just let it come up. We won't stay here long. And now simply ask to be shown. There was an unconscious agreement in there somewhere. What was it? Just allow it to surface. You don't have to like it or judge it or even understand it. What agreement was made right there? Keeping your eyes closed, you can let that go with your next big full breath. Oh yeah. And now what gets to roll in because of your willingness to be here, to close your eyes, to do this with me. Now there's an opening that wasn't there before. And allow that wisdom of God now to move in and to reveal to you very clearly what your soul and your heart wants instead. What does it want different? What does it want that's new? And I just want to encourage you, so often if you're anything like me, which I imagine some of you must be or you wouldn't be here, there might be some part of you that says, I'm not so sure I want to agree to that. Or I don't really understand that. But what I'm going to ask you to do is go ahead and open up your willingness to commit to whatever's dropped in for you. What you want instead is what this universal intelligence, nature itself, wants for you to do, to be through you. All right. So whatever level of willingness you are in, even if it looks a lot like resistance, just go ahead and bless it and let it go. Because guess what? As my husband likes to say often, it's all good, whether you like it or not. All right, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and come on back here. Thank you for being willing to go there and do this. And, right before I walked up here, I got this little nudge. This happens a lot. And, I've been working with clients one-on-one for now, like I mentioned, 20 years. And it took, I don't even want to say how many years, but I'm going to go ahead and say it took about half of those years for me to totally let go and just trust this intuitive energy that moves through me when I'm sitting with people. It happens in workshops too, in retreats and classes. It happens when I give a talk like today. I already did. I'll prepare, and then there will be something else that downloads, right? You've had that experience. I mean, I have given up needing to control or make anything look a certain way. I mean, my good ideas are pretty good, but there's a greater idea. There's a greater intelligence here. So I listen to it, and often what happens is I'll be in session, and I finally surrendered because it's embarrassing. I'll absolutely come right out and interrupt somebody, and I might even call them out. And it's not me, my personality. I'm sweet. I like to get along with people. What'll come out is like, I'm not buying that. I'm not going to agree with you about that. It might look like that. Sometimes it comes out where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a visual or something will come to me, or tears will come to me. And that's very uncomfortable. I want to look like I have my act together. But what's really happening is I really do have my act together. I'm really allowing that love intelligence to move through me on behalf of that person. And so I'm sitting in my chair during the meditation, and I hear, bring up your covenant, bring up your sacred covenant, and share just a little bit of that. And of course, my human mind's going, I don't want to do that. That's not part of my plan. I don't want to. And also it's vulnerable. But I'm going to, because I listen. Okay? So I'm just going to share with you just a little bit of it. And a covenant, this is actually the kind of the framework is what we do. And I have some flyers that I'd like to share with you. And I also want to invite you, those of you who feel a little nudge, to stay after service, because I'm going to do a little mini workshop. We're going to dive into our divine relationship with God. Just a little bit. It's just going to be maybe a couple hours. And I know that there's something for you, for those of you who want to stay. I'm also doing a 5-day retreat in Oregon in November. And what we're going to do during those 5 days is each person will have an opportunity to download and create this very clear agreement. And it's not just an agreement that you make with life, with spirit. It's two-way. And I know that might sound a little odd, but when you get clear about what you're here for, like when you're called to ministry, or you're called to be a mother, or you're called to do this or that project, it's not just you. There's a two-way thing. There's something really awesome going on. So here's a little bit of mine. These are some affirmative statements that exist in mine. I'm experiencing touching people's hearts and minds. My speaking, writing, teaching, and facilitating has a positive impact of awakening on this planet. I am sharing my gifts of love in the perfect ways and places, and I am serving as a conduit. I love this one. I am serving as a conduit of infinite love intelligence into this world. And I got to tell you, when I wrote that down, I thought, ooh, that sounds nice. It's a flowery statement. That sounds really good. I really had no idea what it meant. And this agreement, that's just a little piece of this sacred, holy agreement that I made, that I wrote down 2 years ago. I'm realizing this right in this moment is what has launched these invitations for me to come and speak this way. And I have to tell you, there are times, probably every time, where I'm about to speak and I think, why did I say I'm going to do this? Because there's some stress, there's some anxiousness. It's like, oh no, is it going to be good? Why did I agree? Because I agreed to that. So thank you for being a part of me getting to live this out. It's very cool. So I'm going to close with this poem, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to close us in prayer. And this one's for my mama, who just had a birthday, and her great love of this poet, Mary Oliver. All right. If you want me to read it to you, it's pretty small. It's small up there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to let you receive it. Just go ahead and close your eyes. This is for all of us. I definitely am moved by some of these lines. So just let your heart be open and hear what this beautiful, recently late poet, Mary Oliver, had to say. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? The grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last? And too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? So, I'm going to close this now, if I can, without crying. What do you plan to do? What have you done thus far with your wild and precious life? And what does this creative intelligence of this universe want yet to do with and through you? You might have had a hint of that today. And so what I speak my word for and about is that I know that there is absolutely this incredible flow of life that is occurring right here, right now, not only through the sound of my voice, but in the lives of each person here in this room, in the lives of people watching online, in the lives of everyone who's gathered anywhere in any way around this planet to worship, to explore, to love each other, to open. And so what I know absolutely is that this impulse of life that is so exquisite, that is the great mystery, has a hold of us. It is us. It's all that we are. And so I claim for each person that there is some new opening occurring. Whether they can define it or understand it makes no difference. I know that this opening is an evolutionary urge. It is absolutely the divine seeking and finding ways to reveal itself in this life in the ways that we were each designed to do and to be. And that might look like simply loving more ourselves, each other, this world. And so for the blessings that return to us that already are happening right now, again in ways we can't imagine, synchronicities, meeting somebody you knew years ago, meeting somebody new. What I know is that each greeting, each meeting is God meeting God. And so I celebrate it. I love it. And I know that that evolutionary impulse of life that is unique to each one of us is simply that love of the divine for itself. And it is rich and it is good, and we allow it. And in that allowing, we continue to transform. We continue to be more of the truth of who and what we already are. And so for that love, for the miracles, for the connection, for the joy and the laughter, for the awesome awareness of how blessed we already are, I give great thanks. Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. I let it be. I let it go. I know it's done. How awesome is that? And so it is. Amen. Ah.